Every multi-million-dollar real estate transaction hinges on a single document. The appraisal report translates abstract market data into the hard numbers driving global finance. For everyday residential properties, this translation is highly mechanized. Appraisers process millions of homes through standardized form reports designed to maximize efficiency for the secondary mortgage market. Institutions like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac demand this uniformity. Because they buy and package thousands of mortgages a day, they require data that their automated systems can digest instantly. This is the Uniform Residential Appraisal Report, or URR. To ensure machine readability, appraisers use a strict digital language, standardizing every input. But efficiency costs descriptive space. When determining highest and best use, the central economic premise, the form provides only a simple checkbox. This is the AI Reports Form 100.05. Other clients, like private lenders or portfolio managers, do not operate under secondary market rules. The Appraisal Institute developed alternative formats like this one to provide larger open fields for descriptive flexibility rather than strict data entry. Yet even flexible forms hit a limit. When evaluating a massive industrial warehouse, a controversial eminent domain taking, or a unique commercial asset, standardized boxes cannot hold the necessary logical proofs required by professional appraisal standards. The Narrative Appraisal Report provides a highly engineered architectural framework built to hold a complex economic argument. A fully compliant narrative report functions as a strict four-part logical proof. It is intentionally designed to separate objective data from the appraiser's professional interpretation. While forms serve as efficient data entry tools for mass markets, the narrative report provides a comprehensive legal and mathematical argument for high-stakes, complex properties. To construct a defensible conclusion, the narrative appraisal follows a precise structural sequence. The first pillar, the introduction, gives the user the bottom line immediately, stating the final value and property type. The second pillar defines the appraisal problem, establishing the strict operational framework. It explicitly identifies the client and any other intended users. The name on the cover page is not always the only party relying on the document, so the report states exactly who is authorized to use the findings. Next, it legally defines the exact property rights being appraised. Valuing absolute ownership, known as fee simple, requires a different mathematical approach than a leased fee estate, where the property is encumbered by tenant contracts. The appraiser then details the scope of work. This section dictates the required depth of research, the extent of the physical inspection, and the specific valuation methodologies the appraiser applied to solve the problem. If the valuation relies on a fact the appraiser assumes to be true but cannot absolutely guarantee, like a third-party engineering report indicating a structurally sound foundation, they must declare an extraordinary assumption. They must also declare any hypothetical conditions. This occurs when a property is valued based on a premise known to be false, such as evaluating a completely vacant lot as if a fully constructed office building already sits on it today. Without perfectly defining these operational boundaries and identifying these critical assumptions in the first two pillars, the economic data presented later in the document is legally and functionally meaningless. The third pillar is the presentation of data. A strict ethical rule governs this section. The appraiser must present facts objectively, without any subjective interpretation. It begins with foundational legal data. The property is identified by its exact parcel number and its complete legal description, ensuring it cannot be confused with any other plot of land. Under the Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice, or USPAP, the appraiser must also report the 3-year history of the subject property. This includes logging any past sales, current listings, or active purchase options. The report then maps out regional, city, and neighborhood data. To maintain absolute neutrality, the appraiser documents both positive growth trends and negative economic indicators, preventing any appearance of bias. The report catalogs the site's dimensions, its topography, and available utilities. The focus narrows to the specific physical characteristics of the land itself, evaluating crucial underlying soil and subsoil conditions. Beyond the physical dirt, the appraiser outlines the legal and economic constraints tethered to the land. This means documenting exact zoning classifications, private easements cutting across the property, and the current local tax burdens. Next, the appraiser describes the physical improvements, the buildings. They report the exact gross square footage, structural features, and the age and condition of the mechanical equipment. They also objectively record any physical deterioration or functional obsolescence, noting features like deferred maintenance or an outdated floor plan that limits the building's utility. By constructing a strict firewall between this raw market data and their own subjective opinions, the appraiser establishes the ethical neutrality of the report and guards against any accusation of bias. The fourth pillar is analysis and conclusions. This is the engine of the appraisal, where the appraiser's professional expertise is applied to interpret the raw data they just presented. The first analytical step is the market analysis. Here, supply, demand, and local economic trends are synthesized to determine the property's competitive position within its specific market area. Next comes the determination of highest and best use. Unlike the simple checkbox on a residential form, a narrative report requires documented proof that a proposed use is legally permissible, physically possible, and financially feasible before concluding it is the maximally productive use of the site. Data flows into three valuation approaches. The cost approach calculates estimated building replacement costs minus depreciation plus land value. The sales comparison approach applies mathematical adjustments to recent comparable sales. The income approach translates anticipated future cash flows into a present value estimate. These three approaches rarely produce the exact same number. The final step is reconciliation. A common misconception is that an appraiser simply averages the three resulting values. They do not. Reconciliation is a reasoned, logical weighting of the approaches, based entirely on the quality and reliability of the data available for that specific property type. This rigorous, step-by-step processing engine ensures the final value conclusion is a direct mathematical result of the evidence analyzed. The document concludes with one indispensable component, the appraiser certification. The certification is far from standard legal boilerplate tacked onto the back of the document. It is the appraiser's ultimate professional shield, locking in the integrity of the assignment. By signing this page, the appraiser legally guarantees that their analysis was completely unbiased, and that their compensation was in no way contingent upon hitting a predetermined value to make a deal work. It serves as written verification that the appraiser maintained strict adherence to USPAP and the binding ethical codes of professional appraisal practice. The report has moved systematically from the initial boundaries of the scope of work, through the sterile presentation of objective facts, and into the rigorous engine of market analysis. This highly structured architecture serves one overriding purpose: extreme transparency. Because the logic is laid out in exact sequence, any underwriter, peer reviewer, or court of law can perfectly retrace the appraiser's mathematical steps and analytical reasoning years after the report is signed. While standardized forms will continue to drive the high-volume residential market, true complexity requires narrative clarity. The narrative appraisal report remains the absolute bedrock of complex real estate finance, transforming subjective professional opinion into a legally and financially impenetrable proof.